introduction to one of my favorite people on earth, Mr. Stephen Oliver, who is with the Advisor Marketing Podcast. Now, Stephen is a true maverick, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Not only in our business, but I have to tell you, his clients universally love him, and they grow at rates that they wouldn't believe it's possible. Now, on this podcast, in each episode, Stephen is joined by various members of his team or special guests to share insider secrets to rapid growth and high net profits in your financial advisory practice. So I just want you to know you're in for a wild ride, new information, and a lot of exciting new future because of Stephen Oliver.
Hi there, Stephen Oliver and Greg Moody with Advisor Wealth Mastery. And hey, we were just whining behind the scenes about getting financial advisors off their ass and getting them marketing. Is that a fair way to say it?
Well,
Greg?
getting to marketing and getting to get results. I mean, it's laying out the menu of things that are possible, and really, it's an unlimited number of things that can be super productive. And most of the time, the things that they've done before needed just a few tweaks to make them very, very productive, and that's what we can help with. And then they get stuck, spinning around, spinning their wheels on, I don't know what to do next. Well, here's what to do next. Let's get doing some things. And they get stuck and kind of can't get out of their own way about what to do next, so that they end up not getting any results. And so it's kind of a conundrum in their own minds.
Let me paraphrase that in a different way. There's a spectrum of activities you can do. Some of them are going to pay off in 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 36 months. Others are going to pay off like this week, right? And so a lot of people get fixated on the stuff that has long-term outcome, but don't get any momentum just getting stuff done today to get new clients in the door today, right? And then there's a spectrum, and I think this industry, and of course we've worked across a bunch of different industries, is probably as bad as any I've ever seen, except for the guy or gal who opens a hardware store, opens the doors, and just expects business to show up. Where, the predominant mode of thinking is it's either like the old Boiler Room movie, the original Stratton Oakmont movie, where make 1,000 outbound cold calls a day and try to talk people into it, which admittedly works. It's just massively labor intensive. I was laughing, you were laughing with me about a article recently about Merrill changing their training program and deciding that there was disparate outcomes for different groups of people in doing outbound cold calling. Plus, they were having problems with do not call list, and to be fair, they were having problems with people who just don't answer the phone. But they were shifting them to cold contacts on LinkedIn, for God's sake, which, again, it works. But I mean, I'm just as well to take here especially, take it right out the front door and start knocking on doors. Go to the gated community on the golf course and start knocking on doors is just as effective. It's very low leverage. So that I think was one of the things we were talking about. Was I get fixated on, oh yeah, you mentioned a book would be good to have. I'm going to start writing the book. Okay, yeah, but what do we do for clients this week? I want to do a podcast. Okay, well, that's a long build. Maybe you get discovered. Mostly you try to drive traffic to it. Great. 2 years from now, you'll have a productive evergreen asset. But right now, it's not going to do you any good. What are you going to do right now? Is that a long way of paraphrasing what you were saying?
Yeah, and there's ways to use those pieces and get results right now if we just focus on the now. And it's not all focusing on where are we going to get results right now. And I liken it to farming and mining. In mining, I'm going to go mine the gold out right now. In farming, I'm planting some crops, and it's going to give a healthy harvest over time. And we need to do some of both of that. Yeah. And we want our clients to do both of those things, but they get fixated on, I think in a lot of ways, it's like a shiny object, one thing or two things in their mind. And what we're always trying to do is do a Parthenon of marketing activities and also potentially other pieces in their business, their sales process and other stuff that may be failing, and there may be opportunities within their business and money that's lying around on the floor that they just haven't picked up. And that's how they can get a lot of success right away and be escalating and accelerating the process of their business and the money that they're making in their business for them personally right away.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things our mentor friend Dan Kennedy, one of the things he says, he just made the commitment 365 days a year, is every day he was going to do something to generate new business, right? Just something every day. Not gonna turn off the computer, go to bed, whatever, without doing one thing at least every day, and that's I think a good rule of thumb. I was spending a lot of time because we were frustrated with a couple of people, and I was spending some time over the weekend thinking about this. And if you take our previous life, or mine anyway, of being in the franchise business, not that that's a business, but franchising businesses, is it's an interesting difference for financial advisors, even independent RIAs, versus the way you think if you're going to go open a brick and mortar business, or if you buy a franchise from somebody. Because there you have, here's the startup capital I need. Here's the required amount of marketing. I had lunch with, no pun intended, the founder, president of It's Just Lunch one time, and another time with, I think it was Del Taco, if I remember correctly. But I used to go to the IFA, the International Franchise Association conventions. And in both cases, they said similar things. With It's Just Lunch, she said to me, our problem was always that a new business would open up, one of our franchises, and they wouldn't do the grand opening marketing. So we made them escrow the money for the grand opening marketing. And then the problem was they wouldn't spend, because they have 50% of the revenue goes out into advertising. And she says then the problem was they wouldn't keep spending the advertising after we forced them to do the grand opening marketing. So we made them escrow the first year. Well, I mean, that's, it's sad that they had to do that, but it's the reality of people think that the technical skill they have is going to be adequate to grow their business. And they don't think about, do I have the money, or am I going to invest the time to go bird dog and get new clients, right? And with advisors, it seems to me many of them get fixated on, okay, I've got some clients now, and I'm going to go beg all my clients for referrals. And as we know, I just finished cleaning up the chapter on the new book. We did the starting point, then I had to completely rewrite it. But just because I was anal that way. But all the different tools that we have to generate referrals. But there's a spectrum of high labor, low leverage, which is what I would consider cold calls, cold contact, take a right out the door and start knocking on doors, versus high leverage, which also is a positioning advantage. So if I can get in front of an audience of 2,000 people who are likely qualified, that's a heck of a lot better than knocking on individual doors, right? I look like the expert, I'm a public speaker, I'm in an audience. And then the other end of the spectrum is there's a ton of ways that I can do focused advertising, but there's there's a word for it. You're the PhD psychologist. What is it, scotoma, where you can't see things? What's the word?
Well, I don't think that's the word, but yeah,
I don't know what the word is.
You're obsessed. You're
Yeah.
obsessed when over focused on just one thing because you're over. I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
What I was thinking is a lot of advisors have a knee-jerk reaction that advertising doesn't work, so they have a mental block where they can't see the many opportunities for them to do. You and I were talking about this a minute ago. Direct mail. They can't see how buying pay-per-click, buying advertising on LinkedIn, buying advertising on Facebook, investing money for organic search, newspaper ads. Even they think none of that stuff's going to work for them.
Well, I think to be fair, some things have happened to them. They've been burned. They may have tried some of that before, and they didn't get good results because they didn't do it right, or they listen to other people say it doesn't work. And a lot of times that's people that are selling them the new shiny object being LinkedIn marketing, or the new shiny object being Facebook marketing, and the new shiny object being something else. And the reality is, for a healthy business, and this is the thing that I think that people have trouble really getting into action, is they need to have enough marketing activities. And we keep talking about the Parthenon, like you've got in the picture behind you about Wall Street. Yep. Those pillars, the different pillars of marketing represented by the Parthenon in Greece, is what the metaphor that Jay Abraham used, that we took that idea from. But enough different items of marketing that you're doing on a regular basis so that you have a healthy business, because one of those things might work and one of those things may not work at any given month or time period. And all the things that we've talked about will work. And some things you're more comfortable with than others, and some things you have a budget for. And you talked about time and money. You may not have enough money to run certain marketing, so we got to up the labor. And some things you don't want to do a lot of labor, so we'd have to up the budget. Ideally, we'd rather just spend some money and not have to do as much labor. But what we end up with in a lot of situations is when people get stuck, they don't do either. And you can't get away with neither. You can't get away with, there's three things you can't get away with: not spending any money, not spending any time. And the third thing is doing really bad activities. Doing activities that aren't going to be very high leverage or not very focused. And that's where I think people get stuck. They spin their wheels with activities. I think we had somebody that was spending time doing, activities that would, one guy that we talked to, who was the guy that was going to do pickleball. He thought that everybody that's rich played pickleball. So he started playing pickleball. And you got to say,
what the hell is pickleball? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it's for older people that can't play tennis anymore. But I mean, it's probably not wrong that there's more money around people playing pickleball than people playing tennis. But you got to play a whole lot of pickleball, and he didn't even have a pitch. That sounds pejorative, I suppose, saying a pitch, but he didn't even really have any way to talk to the people playing pickleball. And he didn't play pickleball in rich neighborhoods. He just played it all around. And it was really an odd way to think of marketing. So his time that he was spending wasn't very effective. So you have to either spend time or money, and then it's got to be effective too. And it can't be neither of those. You can't sit on your butt and then not do anything.
Well, as you know, with my own businesses that had multiple retail locations, I did startups and I did turnarounds, and both of them were mostly about go get 100 new clients, go get 200 new clients, go get 300 new clients. And if I were going to parachute in to, let's say, a struggling RIA, registered investment advisor firm, if I was going to parachute into one right now and do a turnaround, and my first question would be, how much budget do I have for marketing? But let's assume that it's zero or close to zero, right? I would immediately say, what are my resources, and where can I go get in front of a big crowd, right? That would be my number one objective. Would be, let me go get in my car, let me get on the phone, but probably in a geographic area, I'd get in the car and let's go meet with the human resource director of the major corporations around that have a bunch of highly compensated professional staff. Let me go to the JCs, the Kiwanis, the Chamber of Commerce, places where they have regular lunch meetings, dinner meetings where they have meetings, and let me see if I can be a featured speaker there. Let me find other opportunities. In fact, let me go look at, like here, I could go look at the Denver Convention Center schedule and see what conventions are coming up, what events are coming up. There's other venues. There's a bunch of convention hotels. What events are coming up? Maybe there's a convention of dentists where they're bringing them in from all over the U.S., and I could go be a breakout speaker. Maybe there's a convention of general contractors, or a convention of plastic surgeons. And what I would start with, if I didn't have any money, is where can I go get in front of a big group of people and be put on a pedestal as a speaker, and be there providing a service, right? So if it's a big hospital, They need somebody to help explain their retirement plan to people. They need people who are going to help them create value of somebody being on staff and so forth. I could be a resource there. But that's always where I would start, is I would go, what organizations have a group of people that are a good fit? I'm probably not going to, go speak to an organization that's a bunch of 20-somethings in a retail work, for instance. They're not a good prospect. But in fact, we talked to somebody who was working with the developer of a massive retirement community. Well, hell, one of them was the retirement community was selling in all the cold areas for people to move to a golf community, and I forget, was it Arizona or Florida or
Florida, that was Florida.
Somewhere where it was nice. Well, I mean, everyone that they sell the home on the intercoastal to or the home on the golf course to is a good prospect for me. Why wouldn't I team up with that person? And now I could do live seminars at their property. I could tie into everybody that they have pitched or that they have sold a property, and I could now direct mail to them. I could do Zoom meetings to them. See, that to me, it's what Jay Abraham calls it host beneficiary. Most marketers call it host parasite. Financial marketing, think of it as circle of influence marketing. But who can I go parasite off of? Who can I find that would be delighted to have me as an outside expert, as a free resource that I could, parasite off of and get in front of a big group of people? Wouldn't that be where you'd start?
Yeah, and I think most of the time we hear that circle of influence idea, and people are saying, yeah, I talked to an accountant, or yeah, I talked to a lawyer in my town, or yeah, and then they sit around waiting for leads. And that almost never works because they don't do it correctly. They need to have some other tools to give those guys, or to be at their event, or to create an event for them, because those guys are crappy at marketing. They're horrible. Lawyers and accountants, some of the worst people on the planet in how to market their own business. They've sort of gotten their business by default, or they work for another agency or another firm, and they've gotten their business that way. Those guys are not going to be good at promoting your service. It's just never going to work. So we've got to give them some tools and help them, and almost nobody is doing that right. So that's a big piece. The other piece that I don't think people do very well when they're kicking off and trying to really grow is look at their old list of prospects, old list of people that have raised their hand or contacted them or gotten information from them. They just kind of ignore that list. They email them one or two times or call them one or two times. They said, maybe now it's not the time that they're ready to talk to you. And then they ignore them forever. And those are people it's just a gold mine of potential people that would be fantastic to work with. I mean, that's what everybody should also, in parallel. I think what you said first, Steve, is the first one. And the second one would be looking at their list of prospects. And sometimes that just people freeze. Well, I talked to them once 2 years ago. Well, now might be a better time.
Well, and let's not gloss over. It's funny. I was at my accountant's office, doing the taxes, and he's looking at the books and one thing or another, and figured out what I did. He says, "No, you should be working with accountants. In fact, you should be coming and working with us. And when can you come and teach us how to do this stuff?" He's got a pretty big firm, but just has no clue. And think about what you just said a minute ago. If I had an accountant that's really, really excited to work with me, but I know they are crap at marketing, even their own service, much less, mine, right? Let's think about how could I get them to be good at, not, use the word pitching, but how could I get them to be good at introducing my service to their clients who are of high quality? Well, I can organize a client appreciation for their clients that we co-host. And in fact, I could bring my clients, they can bring their clients if I wanted to do that. I could organize a Zoom meeting for their clients on a series of specific topics that are relevant with the accounting firm, but really are in my wheelhouse, right? I could, if I had the book, and this is the long-term project, but if I had the book, I could give him, or I could put a cover letter together from him. I could do envelopes with postage. I could let them put labels on it, and I could mail a copy of the book with his, from him. recommending this as a tool. Now, that would be a good way. I could put together a series of reports or papers that he could mail, cover letter from him, to his clients. And you start getting creative and you go, well, what are all the things I could do? And, you know, most people I see that do even start thinking that way. They say, well, maybe I can get him to send an email. Well, okay, you know, great. He's going to send an email, but let's see. What could we do to do a series of events? What could we do to get a bunch of stuff in their hands? What could we do to have our material be a ride-along to everything that goes out to his clients? How can we really orchestrate a multi-step marketing campaign to his clients? And frankly, you know, show him how to do the same thing for his growth.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because those guys are probably not doing it very well. You'll change their life at the same time, and that's what we help them with. And you know, anybody that goes to our website, Advisor Wealth Mastery, you'll get a little more detail on and a lot of content on how to do this specifically.
Yeah, but you know what? Every time I've done something like that, it's never been the ones that did a really good job for me. It's been about how many different ways I was helping them. It wasn't about every time you send me somebody, I'm going to give you $500, right?
Yeah, that's useless, really.
Yeah, yeah, and the more I showed them, because you know, by the way, it's you know, Dan Kennedy's comment was it's like showing, you know, caveman fire. You know, the more you show them of focused marketing activities, the more it blows their mind, and the more they utilize material you've given them, then the reciprocity kicks in, and they're really appreciative. But all of a sudden, they let you do more and more stuff. I mean, as you know, I've gotten people to mail all this stuff for me, mail it once a quarter. You know, let's have a client meeting of yours. Let's do a client meeting once a month. Let me put this, you know, let me give you this stuff to gift people as a ride along. Let's do a letter to everybody with a, you know, a certificate as a free thing from me. I mean, all kinds of stuff that just blows their mind, but it blows the doors off with traffic as well.
Yeah, you bet. And those are a couple good places to start. I mean, it's absolutely important to get off your butt, do these things, and then you have a big acceleration. And it also helps you get more confidence as you're moving forward. And I think what happens is people overanalyze, give us a lot of reasons why. Oh, but that can't work. That can't work. That can't work. Well, you'll be right if you keep saying those things. If you keep overanalyzing this yourself.
Self-fulfilling, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to get bad results.
Yeah. You know, we'll call it a day on that one. That was a quick blitz here, but the first place to start is either figure out you're going to jumpstart it with some marketing budget, or you're going to jumpstart it with labor, and you don't have a choice. It's got to be one or the other, right, or a fine combination of the two. And if you're going to jumpstart with labor, move to as high a leverage as you can. So rather than cold contacting somebody on LinkedIn or taking a right out the front door and knocking on doors or cold calling, you know, start with who has an audience of 100 people, 200 people, 300 people. What conventions are coming to town, and I can be a breakout or I can be a speaker, you know, and maybe there's a convention coming to town and I can even do a booth and have a display and so forth. I mean, if it was the, you know, National Association of Dentists or the American AMA or the Bar Association, there's all kinds of, you know, how many of those things we've done, you know, you in Phoenix and in California, me in Colorado, and all over the country, is it can be so productive. And you can get in front of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, or even 50 people. And it is different materially than the dinner meeting idea. Not that that doesn't work, but if somebody else spent the money to get them there, and now they're introducing you as an outside expert, both of those things are benefits. One is you didn't spend the money to put them in the room. And two is you're being put on a pedestal just by virtue of being an invited speaker.
Yeah, it makes you more of an expert that way. The key is you got to do a few things right. We don't have time for that today, but there's a few key pieces that have to be done right. So you get a lot of actual appointments, get a lot of people that are going to want to talk to you out of these things, not just get a bunch of names and numbers, or not just get a bunch of business cards that won't really do you any good. So that's a key piece of this.
Yeah, and it is, as a brief aside before I have to jump to another meeting, is, you know, we have a friend, Don Southerton, my friend, and I met Steve Black, who was running around filling up the room for Brian Tracy. And most people don't realize that, but the way Tony Robbins got started was he was the one that would fill up the room for Jim Rohn. And what he would do is he would find every group that has salespeople, and he would go do an hour presentation on sales training for every realtor and every, think about the companies that have, a group of salespeople and they have a sales meeting, one thing or another. But basically, they had a list of all the target companies. They would go in and do free presentations for about 6 weeks to every one of those companies, maybe 5 or 6 presentations a day, and end up filling 1,500 people in a room, in a ballroom. And that's certainly how Tony Robbins got so good on stage, and my friend Steve Black. But it's an incredible high leverage way to get in front of an awful lot of people in a hurry, and especially as an advisor, if you get in front of the right ones, people who are making money, not broke, is a great point of leverage.
Yeah, you bet. We'll see you.
Greg, thank you, and it was a little bit of a blitz, but some good content for everybody.